Do you know that over 1,000 buildings in East Williamsburg and Greenpoint have been affected by toxic vapors for decades? Imagine living in toxic air, which can cause serious health issues.
Were discovered inside a popular local business. Residents are angry at the state for what they're calling a lack of transparency.
But do not worry, because federal authorities have announced a $1 million plan to assess and address toxic fumes that might have affected over 1,000 properties in Brooklyn. Welcome back. In the heart of New York City's bustling neighborhoods of Greenpoint and East Williamsburg, a silent yet potent threat looms. Over 1,000 buildings are possibly marred by toxic vapors. This script delves into the mystery of the Meeker Avenue Plume, an environmental concern with deep historical roots and extensive impact. But first, if you haven't yet, subscribe and join us on this investigative journey. The Meeker Avenue Plume has its origin traced back to industrial activities that have long characterized North Brooklyn. Spanning an estimated 45 city blocks, this environmental issue was born from historical industrial pollution sources, including local dry cleaners, foundries, and metalworking shops. In 2022, the area was designated a federal Superfund site, acknowledging the severity and scale of contamination. These industries left behind a legacy of chlorinated solvents like tetrachloroethylene, PCE, and trichloroethylene, TCE, which have seeped into the ground, now emanating as vapors into buildings.
More than a century of unregulated disasters and disposals, there was no one major event that caused it. Also, because the spill is literally underground, it is not seen and mostly makes itself known through the invisible vapors like benzene that seep into Greenpoint residents' basements.
Since 2007, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, or the NYSDEC, has been conducting thorough investigations into the soil, groundwater, soil gas, and both outdoor and indoor air quality. During these investigations, NYSDEC discovered multiple contamination sources beneath the soil surface. The agency maintains a registry of sites that pose a significant risk to both human health and the environment. To mitigate vapor intrusion in both residential and commercial buildings, NYSDEC implemented sub-slab depressurization systems. These systems employ an electric fan to block contaminated vapors from seeping into buildings from below, instead redirecting these vapors outdoors above the building. Despite these efforts, the full scope of groundwater contamination and the impact of soil vapors on indoor air quality at the Meeker Avenue Plume site remains unclear. Following the site's addition to the Superfund's National Priorities List, the EPA is set to conduct a comprehensive investigation to determine the full extent of contamination and devise a permanent cleanup plan. The presence of TCE and PCE is more than just a foul odor. These chemicals are linked to severe health risks, including cancer, developmental toxicity, reproductive toxicity, liver toxicity, kidney toxicity, immunotoxicity, and neurotoxicity, and neurological disorders. The community's reaction has been a mix of concern and frustration, exacerbated by insufficient information regarding the long-term health implications. Interviews with residents reveal a palpable fear and a demand for immediate and transparent action from authorities. Residents voice their concerns that the EPA is obligated to disclose its findings on toxic vapors solely to the property owner, which could potentially keep tenants at risk uninformed. Felice Kirby, a community activist with over 40 years of residency in Williamsburg, said in a meeting, "It's very hard to tell people they are in danger until it's almost too late. So I'm concerned that it's a hard job they have." Did you go to all of the schools? Did you send notes home to the parents? All the churches? Did you stand outside the subway stations and hand flyers out? But then, you are going to build hysteria. And if they are not finding vapor intrusion in a lot of places, is it right to build hysteria? The EPA's project supervisor for the Meeker Avenue Plume, Stephanie Vaughn, said in an interview, "They don't want people to be at risk. They want to be able to mitigate any problems as soon as possible. They also want to be cooperative and want the community to work with them. They don't want to come in and just start ordering access everywhere. But if there is a case where they feel it's really warranted, they will use that authority. Share your thoughts and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this ongoing story. In April 2024, the EPA proposed a plan to protect people living and working in residential and commercial buildings at the Meeker Avenue Plume Superfund site in the Greenpoint / East Williamsburg area of Brooklyn. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has rolled out a mitigation plan, investing around $1 million over the next 5 years to combat this pollution. These technical solutions are crucial steps towards safeguarding public health and reclaiming the safety of affected properties. The first step is to assess the intensity of the poisonous vapors and address sites that have obvious risks to human health. The EPA is assessing measurements from over 1,000 potentially at-risk residential and non-residential buildings. Over 100 properties required mitigation. To block the vapor from entering, we have to seal affected basements and install sub-slab depressurization systems to prevent vapor intrusion. The EPA has launched an outreach campaign to inform local property owners, residents, and businesses about the dangers of toxic vapors. It will take years to access and stop the vapors from polluting the residential area. Do you think that environmentalists are happy with this operation?
Of course, residents and environmentalists argue the cleanup has been going on for long enough.
Despite these efforts, the EPA faces significant hurdles, including gaining access to properties for testing and installation of mitigation systems. The slow pace of progress and the community's mistrust in governmental transparency have been major obstacles. Federal officials have indicated that they are prepared to obtain a court order to enter properties if required, although they expressed hope that such measures would not be necessary. This reflects the ongoing efforts to ensure compliance and facilitate the necessary inspections to safeguard public health and the environment. The agency initiated vapor sampling in November and has successfully completed sampling at 48 properties to date. This includes at least 18 residential homes, 11 public housing buildings, and 1 public school. To bolster community trust and involvement, the EPA has intensified its outreach efforts. Public meetings, information sessions, and regular updates are part of a strategy to improve transparency and involve residents in the remediation process. They've distributed postcards and letters, knocked on doors, posted flyers in public spaces, and set up information tables in parks and markets. However, the community continues to voice concerns over the need for clearer, more frequent communication regarding the safety of their environment.
Residents say the state isn't doing enough in enforcing a full cleanup.
A Greenpoint resident, Lael Goodman, who works for the North Brooklyn Neighbors nonprofit focused on environmental issues, said, "It doesn't seem likely that they will be able to sample all of the homes unless more strong action is taken. I know that if I was living in the basement or the first floor of any of the homes within the investigation area, I would want to make sure that my air was tested and deemed safe." At the meeting, some attendees expressed concerns to the news site about the potential health implications of having been exposed to the chemicals for years. Other residents voiced concerns that the EPA is only mandated to communicate its findings on toxic vapors to property owners, potentially keeping tenants who may be at risk uninformed. The situation in Greenpoint and East Williamsburg highlights the critical need for vigilance and action in tackling environmental hazards in urban areas. As we continue to uncover and address these invisible threats, communities must stay informed and engaged. What steps would you take to ensure your community is safe from environmental hazards? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this ongoing story.